Hello everyone. So I've thought long and hard about some issues with the ranch that I want to discuss. These issues deal with the period before September of 2016. This will also give me a chance to pass additional knowledge on to you about the history of the ranch and some matters that continue to perplex me. Then there are things needing to be brought up that don't make sense and need to be challenged. Honestly, there are some red flags that continue to bother me. So there's a sacred mountainside on a property directly south of Skinwalker Ranch. The ground is obviously raised slightly from the remainder of the field it's located in. The mound has a clear view to Skinwalker Ridge and the mesa north of the ranch. This location was shown to us by a Ute in his early 20s. He stated that in the past, the Ute leaders would fast for several days, then meditate and pray while watching the ridge in front of them for supernatural signs and occurrences to take place. Interesting for me is the fact that this Ute was telling this to a group of people that I had nothing to do with, and I just so happened to be at the same location when he was explaining what would go on. This spot happens to be directly behind the largest magnetic anomaly I've located on the Uinta Basin. Remember that anomaly was located using an Alpha Labs vector magnetometer? I'm going to show that to you here in a moment. What was seen and heard by those Ute leaders in the past was sacred. However, some of what took place was shared with the tribe. One thing that was made known was that divine spirits would exit gateways, entering our world. The Ute informant telling us the story was not being given money or other payment for his story. It was being given freely. And I understand it's still secondhand knowledge, but the site he showed and location pointed out on Skinwalker Ridge fits with other information I know and the magnetic field variations that I've come across on the basin. This is my Earth magnetometer. It reads the strength of the Earth's magnetic field at a given location. What I'm showing here is that same location on the adjoining property. The site has an average magnetic field strength of 48 microtesla. Yet there was this constant magnetic field fluctuation between a negative 14 to a positive 89 microtesla. That should never occur, and this magnetic field data is repeatable. Half a million plus kilovolt power lines are running directly over the north end of the mesa that's adjacent to Skinwalker Ranch. They were built in the mid-1980s. You have this feeling of pins and needles running through your extremities and a burning in your chest the closer you get to them. EF readings approached to 900 volts per meter before I turned back. This photo is at the back northwest region of the mesa above Skinwalker Ranch. It's possible for power lines to energize equipment and lights just from proximity alone. The current running through them induces an alternating magnetic field around them as they conduct electricity. History and discussion about them has never occurred. It was completely left overlooked. If that was on purpose, I don't know. The lines themselves can often be seen vibrating. I feel that the electricity is tracking to the ground, and you can also hear this very loud humming around them. Now moving on. This is the technology room at Skinwalker Ranch during the BAASS era. Funding came from AAWSAP, which is the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. That was in the amount of $22 million by the time that this picture was taken. Should we start questioning where $22 million of U.S. taxpayer monies was spent? Should we be paying close attention to what has been written about in these two books? I can only point toward the need for people to question what you read. Do we need to reclassify? One book is fictional, the other is evidence for future congressional hearings. I know for a fact that a lot of what was reported during certain periods on the ranch was because people were afraid they would lose their jobs if nothing was happening and there was nothing collected and no phenomena to report on. Now I say that knowing that some events reported did happen, others not so much. I also know that some evidence collected was later debunked, but still documented as authentic. Now let's quickly dive a bit deeper into the history of the ranch. The Locke family never talked about anything strange taking place at the ranch when they lived there. The homestead was a typical ranch home back in the early mid-20th century. Kids played around the house and never ran into anything worth writing about. A visitation of high strangeness supposedly happened at the beginning part of the 20th century. That was made up for 15 minutes of fame, meaning no future man in a blue suit was ever at the ranch. It didn't happen. Now, does this glyph below Skinwalker Ridge have something to do with the 9th Black Cavalry that was stationed at the original Fort Duchesne in the late 1800s? It's possible they were given credible information by the Ute tribe while at the fort that made the men investigate the ridge above the ranch while they were not on duty. This location of the ridge, now Skinwalker Ridge, has a direct connection to Crow Creek above the basin in the Uinta Mountains. What that is will have to remain for a later time when I'm comfortable discussing it. Another good possibility is a treasure symbol left by the Mexicans or the Spaniards. There's a circle within a circle at the very bottom of the carving. All the symbols are known to be associated with the Freemasons. What will really make you stop and think is, what if both are connected? Both possibilities are correct. This is what I'm talking about. The carvings could mean a treasure is hidden nearby. Remember that the mesa and ridge look to have had mining operations at both locations. Cave tunnels and voids are all throughout the mesa. I know firsthand. If the ranch was considered one large ongoing experiment, then the employees on site became long-term test subjects. Some were sent to Reno, Nevada for tests to be conducted after they were exposed to unexplainable phenomena. But what exactly is the phenomena that's occurring in and around the ranch? This was one single event where 2 BAASS team members experienced the same high strangeness together. Almost everything else was witnessed by a single individual with no one to back up what they saw or experienced. The UFO Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, was the main site for AAWSAP program, which is confirmed. Without the AAWSAP program occurring at the ranch, there may not have been ATIP. But was there really need for either program? I would answer yes to that question if I got paid $22 million for my fictional books. This is the ranch in 1953. Study it closely. Tell me if you see anything strange or different about the ranch or the mesa. Remember, pause it here and look closely. Here's some Edith Myers and Kenneth Myers information I wanted to share. Some ask me if the young ghost on the property is their son who died. My answer, the Myers went to Salt Lake City to have the child. The child died there and was buried south of Salt Lake City in a location where most of the Myers were laid to rest. A good period of time passed before the Myers ever went back to the Uinta Basin. There's a lot of public information available on the internet in regard to the periods that the Lockes, Myers, and another family owned the property. On occasion, one family owned the property and rented a portion of it out to another. The land was once purchased for practically nothing due to a tax lien on the property. Later it was sold to the Myers for $6,000. Garth Myers, the brother of Kenneth, later sold the property to the Shermans when Edith died. Many thought Edith left the property after her husband Kenneth died. That is not true. She lived by herself on Skinwalker Ranch for several years. Her friends and family in Roosevelt state, she never mentioned high strangeness taking place. Now, why is this location on Moonshadow Ranch important enough for NIDS to track it? I cannot gain access to this site. Moonshadow Ranch is gated and private property. The information in this video is prior to 2016 and has nothing to do with the new owner and team at the ranch. And just so we are straight, I do believe some paranormal activity has taken place at the ranch. My personal belief is that this deals directly with some kind of space-time alteration with magnetic portals forming, from where I have no idea. Lastly, if you see something come out soon, possibly another documentary, and it's based mainly on the prior ranch caretaker that was there for over 20 years, please question it completely. Look closely at who is going to be bringing you that information. Realize who those people are attached to. It all comes down to money and a desire to study something that the US government does not want to directly fund, so it must be done covertly using funding that was meant to be used for something else. Thanks for taking the time to look at this presentation. If you get a chance, please like the presentation. Have a great one. Take care.